Welcome to GamesBeat Rewind. This week we'll be going over the best games of the year through a variety of categories. Today, it's the non-awards. This is GamesBeat's chance to talk about the games and the things that happened that don't necessarily fit into other categories. Joining us today is myself, Jeffrey Grubb, GamesBeat Managing Editor, Jason Wilson, GamesBeat's Reviews Editor, Mike Minotti, GamesBeat Writer and Reporter, Stephanie Chan, and GamesBeat's PC Gaming Guest Post Editor, Rowan Kaiser. We're going to be with you all week, so be sure to check in every day for a new podcast and check GamesBeat.com for write-ups and more looking back at 2017. Hey you, yeah, you, the one trying to make a video game. I've got someone here that can help you, and that someone is Intel, which is not a someone, it's a company. But this company, they are going to help you as if they were a somebody and a someone and also a something. Check out software.intel.com/gamedev to find out how Intel is making sure all the innovation in gaming continues to happen on the PC as part of the Intel Game Dev program. Again, that URL is software.intel.com/gamedev. Sign up and start something new.
I do.
Lay it on us.
So, I'm going to give this one to what I feel is the best. So the best D&D game that wasn't D&D this year. And for me, that's Etrian Odyssey 5. And I have some love of Etrian Odyssey ever since I played the first one way back in the late 2000s when it came out on the DS. And for me, what really grabbed me is the mapping. But the other thing I love about it, too, is how in order to survive the mega dungeon that is Etrian Odyssey, as you go lower and lower and lower into the different layers and stratas of the game, is you need to go in with different party makeup. So you might take in, and this is for two reasons. One is to collect as many materials as you can to help build up better weapons and better items and better armor in the store, because that's how you get stuff, is by selling materials that the store owner then crafts into weapons. But also just because you come across different monsters and sometimes you need a different party build than what you have. And that reminds me so much of old school, not just old school Dungeons and Dragons, but some more old school dungeon exploring games such as Wizardry or such as The Bard's Tale, where sometimes you might want to tinker with your party lineup in order to go out and get the most out of the group you're sending. The other thing that I really kind of cherish about Etrian Odyssey 5 is, for me, it came at a very opportune time. I was playing the review build at the same time as the fires started in Northern California. Now, I was 75 miles away from those fires, but my mother and my brother were right in the middle of it. In fact, my mother's house, if it wasn't for the school across the street with its big empty field, the fire would have burned it, probably burned through her part of the neighborhood too, but it didn't. She was spared. And instead of going to stress eating, which is how I normally would handle such things, I just picked up Etrian Odyssey and kept playing it. So for me, it helped me keep up with my weight loss goals. And instead of eating, I just played Etrian Odyssey 5, which helped me a great deal this year. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 there.
It feels like you could say like the best D&D game that's not D&D. It's like most games are D&D games, though, it feels like these days, because so much is taken. So many games have taken elements of those, those tabletop games and incorporated them. What is it about Etrian Odyssey 5 in particular that reminds you of D&D, though?
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about with Dragon's Dogma last week. Is you don't really get to explore the mega dungeon anymore. You're going off to different places. But the fact that you're stuck in this one big dungeon that just gets deeper and deeper and deeper as you go, I really enjoyed that. And it sounded like Rowan had something to say.
Yeah, Etrian Odyssey doesn't have as many generations between it and everything else. It basically goes D&D to Wizardry to Etrian Odyssey, whereas everything else is like 6-7 generations of figuring out how to do things. So it's very much a throwback feel, but it's I haven't played 5. I played 3 and 4. I assume 5 is right in the same style.
Yeah, in fact, 5 feels more like one or the earlier ones to the later ones, because you're not sitting there going off and exploring these little set-aside maps that you go to with an airship or something like that.
Oh, that probably sounds better even.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, it's very much a throwback style that you only really seem to get anymore with the Japanese handhelds. Yeah, so I have a soft spot for the series and would like to grab that one at some point.
We could probably move on to the next award real quick before we do. You played that on 3DS. Do you want the next one on Switch?
Well, you couldn't do it on Switch.
Yeah, because it has to, like, they do use the both screens. I remember
because you use both screens of 3DS to make your own map with the pen. So it's either at a point where it continues on the 3DS as the 3DS goes into 2018, 2019, which kind of astounds me if it goes into 2019, or they come up with some way to do it on the Switch.
They're going to come up with some way, because I think the future for a lot of these franchises on the Switch, not the 3DS. Yeah. I think they know that. They'll figure something out.
Yeah, and I just not sure what that looks like.
They will have to evolve it, I'm sure. I bet that's the real answer. Is they'll maybe do something a little bit different.
But here's the other thing too. There's nothing wrong with a franchise that's had its time, going off into the dust.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. But if it's, I don't know if it's so successful, or at least it seems like it has a dedicated audience, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is where once it gets up to 5, I kind of just assume they're going to keep going.
Good point. All right, let's